on January 15th and 16th, 2021. I would also like to thank NSR IM Bangalore for partnering in this virtual roadshow. So before we start, to give a background what Prarambh is. Prarambh marks the fifth anniversary of Startup India launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on January 16, 2016. The initiative not only brought a sharp focus on startups, but also catalyzed the Indian startup ecosystem to provide innovative solutions for local and global needs. So in 5 years, India has become the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the world, with the presence of over 30 unicorns, out of which nine emerged in 2020 itself. So to start with, I would like to invite Mr. Ulas Kamath, Chairman, FICCI, Karnataka State Council, and Joint Managing Director, Jyoti Labs Limited, give the welcome address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Nitin. Good afternoon, everyone. Professor Venkatesh Panchaganeshan, Chairman, NSR IM Bangalore. My friend, Mr. Nagaran Doraswamy, Founder and Managing Director, Idea Spring Capital. Ms. Neha Nagpal, Startup India. Ms. Champa E, General Manager IT, Head of Startup Karnataka. And my Head of FICCI State Council, Sri Shaju Mangalam. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome you all at the Karnataka Roadshow for Prarambh Startup India International Summit. The prime aim of today's roadshow is to sensitize the startup ecosystem players from the Karnataka state about the Prarambh Summit that is going to be held on Jan 15th and 16th, organized by DPIIT, Government of India. Prarambh is being organized to mark the 5th anniversary of the Startup India initiative. The Startup India initiative has provided a huge impetus to the startup ecosystem of India. Today, we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, with startup contributing immensely to the innovation-driven growth of the Indian economy. India is also home for 30 plus unicorns, and of which 11 startups entering the unicorn club in the pandemic hit 2020. In line with the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of one startup in every one district of India, we have now more than 40,000 startups recognized across 586 districts from all the 28 states and 8 union territories, which itself is a big achievement in the last 5 years. Startup India has been successful in igniting the minds of young innovators and entrepreneurs across the country. The current median age of founder entrepreneurs lies around 30 years, and that's the startup ecosystem what we have. And we are also having the startups coming from all the 48 industrial sectors. The Indian startup ecosystem has seen the substantial growth in not only the metro cities, but across the length and breadth of the country. Of the 40,000 odd recognized startups, 55% comes from Tier 1 cities and the balance from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Today, 30 states and union territories have their own startup policies to nurture and scale home the grown-up startups. In addition to the creating a policy-led enabling ecosystem, we also have worked hard to create market for our entrepreneurs. At Government of India e-Marketplace, popularly known as GEM, portal, 4,000 plus startups have already registered to offer their goods and services to the government organization and other PSUs. The COVID-19 pandemic has exponentially increased the importance of entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurship is an adaptive wildcard in the complex, emerging, and uncertain post-COVID-19 world. How entrepreneurs seize new opportunities and take risks increases the range of options available to the world as it navigates through these precious times. One of the greatest examples is that today India has become the world's second largest personal protection equipment PPE manufacturer, with industry worth 7,000 crore or 1,100 manufacturers producing 450,000 units daily. The smartest and the toughest will survive and come out stronger in the post-COVID world. Many Indian startups have been able to modify their business models and plans and create new business continuity models. Several startups have seen an opportunity in the current times. Startups are developing innovative, low-cost solution in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, right from sanitizer, tracing apps, low-cost ventilators, disinfecting of masks, and many more things. Many startups quickly adapted their operations to meet the current market demand. Example, Several Designs, a FICCI Millennium Alliance portfolio startup manufacturing low-cost sanitary pads, is now manufacturing 3-ply surgical masks with the help from the automotive team of Mahindra Group. The tie-up with Mahindra is aimed at fast-tracking the production process to aid the healthcare workers and medical who are at the front line dealing with the life-threatening and fast-spreading COVID-19. FICCI, through its Millennium Alliance initiative, is also enabling Indian innovators to share their innovative solutions developed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic with our friends in Africa and South Asia. I can confidently say that the startups are going to play a significant role in making India Atmanirbhar. The government of Karnataka has also come up with a robust startup policy to unlock the innovation potential of the state by providing seed funding, incubation support, market access through government procurement, among many other benefits. Karnataka has been the startup capital of India. For the second consecutive year, Karnataka has been adjudged the top performer in the state's startup ranking undertaken by DPIIT. The state startup ranking framework has 7 broad reform areas consisting of 30 action points ranging from institutional support, easing compliances, relaxation in public procurement norms, incubation support, seed funding support, and venture funding support as well. The Karnataka government intends to stimulate the growth of 2,000 electronic system design and manufacturing ESDM startups by 2022 to create 20 lakhs jobs by 2025. We see our young entrepreneurs as job creators and not job seekers. I encourage startups, investors, incubators, and all key stakeholders from the Karnataka to actively participate in the Prarambh Summit being held virtually on January 15th and 16th of 2021 to interact with the best of minds global entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thank you, one and all, and I welcome everyone once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing the useful information and data related to the startups present in India. So now I would like to invite Professor Venkatesh, Chairman, NSR CEL, IIM Bangalore, for a special address. Sir, I guess you are muted.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very delighted to be part of this August group, sharing some of my thoughts as just to get you a little bit information about NSRCell, which is IIM Bangalore's incubation hub. We are one of the oldest academic incubators in the country. We are about 20 years old. So when we started, we were the only game in town in Bangalore. And today, every coffee shop is an incubator in Bangalore. So we are competing with quite a bit of people at various stages. And so sometimes we ask the existential question, what is the value we add into this business? And I think I will share some of my thoughts. But before I get into NSRCell, I just want to point out something that Mr. Ullas was mentioning, both about unicorns and also about how the startup ecosystem had stepped up post-COVID. I think in both cases, we should look at this a little bit more carefully. And I'm saying this because every day we interact with startups. First of all, the unicorns, I think it's an exciting story to talk about them. But for a country like India, the challenges lie on the ground. And I think having 20 or 50 unicorns is not going to solve our problem. I think for us as a country to take up the challenges that we have, we need to have an entrepreneurial mindset at every level. Even somebody who's on the ground, even people who are employing 10 people or 5 people. So everybody has to have an entrepreneurial mindset for the country to be able to break free from some of these challenges which have plagued us for several decades. So therefore, I think in the national narrative, I think while we should talk about unicorns because unicorns is something that provides us with a good story to talk about. But I think we should also focus on this mass level entrepreneurial movement. And I think there are some important players in this, and I think we should give them the visibility and the support. So that was one thing. And the second thing is on in terms of COVID. I think, as we all know, it was a completely, we were all blindsided by this once in a lifetime event. And startups also were, for a brief amount, a brief period, were completely stuck and clueless of what to do. But looking at what are the changes that have happened in the startup ecosystem, because of during this period is also something I think we should be very careful about, because in the COVID there are so many barriers which got broken. Governments moved very fast because we personally work with a lot of healthcare related startups. Clearances were done very quickly. Funding was made available very quickly. So all these things which people have been talking about for several years all happened because we were all seeking solutions very quickly. And I think this sort of opened up a new gateway of how things can be if we really put our mind to it. I'm only concerned that once the COVID issue gets resolved or sorted out, we should not go back to our old way of doing things. Because I know personally that startups, even okay, sorry, I got mute.
Again, you are muted.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that I think while we should appreciate all the things that have happened post-COVID, we should also be cognizant of the fact that these things was only possible because people were able to relax their normal guidelines, their normal concerns, because they wanted to move fast. I hope some of those way of doing things stays on, so that we will continue to see this kind of important changes that can be brought about by startups. So I think these two, I just thought I will mention it to you since we heard about these in the first address. Just coming back to NSRCEL and IIM Bangalore, I just thought I will just mention to you our learnings over these 20 years. As I said, we have been from the beginning to now, we have morphed into multiple avatars. And today we feel the single biggest thing that has worked well for us is our focus on the entrepreneur and less on the venture. And I think as I see many incubators spawning across the country, I think there is again a great push towards having a successful venture. And for us, that's exactly the opposite of what we look at. We want to have a successful entrepreneur. And that means that the entrepreneur stays in the journey. So when we look at our own data, 3 years after an entrepreneur leaves our ecosystem, they stay in the journey. And 75% of them stay in the journey. And I think in that respect, we have been very successful, because I think what is an entrepreneur, right? I mean, so the entrepreneur is somebody who rises up to solve a challenge or solve a problem. And the particular venture they come to us with may not be the right one. And so in order to make somebody an entrepreneur, the fundamental thing is about the mindset. People are either an entrepreneur or not, is what the general perception is. But we believe that we could train people to become entrepreneurs. At least, they should be able to appreciate what it is to be in the journey. And so therefore, our focus on the entrepreneur has yielded tremendous results, in the sense that people are happy, in the sense that the kind of choices they've made. And more importantly, as we know, we cannot address all the different curveballs that will be thrown at them through their life, right? Because like COVID is an example. I mean, nobody could even predict in January 2020 this is going to happen. But an entrepreneur is somebody who's being able to take up this challenge and say, look, I will stay in the journey, but I will figure out how to survive. And again, in that respect, if you look at our data from our own startups, out of all the 200 plus startups who have been in the system in 2020 within IIM Bangalore, there's just been one startup which had to close down. And every one of them, the rest of them, they all survived. And I would say about 70% of them survived and got better in 2020 compared to what they were before. So in other words, these sort of challenges is exactly what an entrepreneur lives for. And the entrepreneur who's able to deal with these challenges is the one who's going to survive at the end. And for us, that is the focus for an incubator. That incubation it's not about giving them contacts, giving them money. All of those things are necessary. I'm not saying that, but they're not sufficient for the entrepreneur to stay in the game. And for that, a couple of things that we have done, and I would love to share that with you. One is an entrepreneur learns a lot more from their peers compared to what we as experts can provide them. So in that respect, everything we do is a cohort-based approach. So whether we take in people into a particular program, whether it's a women program or a student program, it's always done in groups. So that on the one hand, they use the groups to sort of push each other, but at the same time, they also use the groups to fall back on when things are not going well. And I think in that respect, development of peer networks is very, very important, and which we have now, everything that we do is part of that. The second thing is that many incubators now, there are challenge contests, there are winners. I mean, there are selection process, assessments, things which are being done. And again, over 20 years, what we have found out is that we don't have a clue what makes somebody successful or not, because there are so many moving parts. So what we have done is that we do a funnel-based selection. So which means that at the beginning, we bring in a whole lot of people and let them run the race. I mean, we will give them support equally, but then let them run the race. And then as people develop over time, we will see who's running faster. And then those are the people we will double up. Not that we will drop others completely. It is just that we will find out what is stopping them from running as fast. Some of them may not be capable of running fast, in which case, this is the writing on the wall, something you'll have to do, keeping the constraints in place. So that way, rather than force a selection on the entrepreneur, we are making them come out on their own as to who is capable of breaking challenges and moving forward. And the third one is the milestone-based support. So we provide 5 kinds of support, which ranges from physical space to money to mentorship to market access to venture support. Like, for example, IP, lawyers, secretarial support, compliance support, and so on. So all of these things, we make it available for all our startups for free. But all of them are not available as free in the sense that you have to earn it. So initially, we will provide you, but as you progress, we will double up those supports for you. And I think all of these combinations has helped us to be able to identify the person who has the fire in the belly. So ultimately, in an entrepreneurship, they not only have to deal with the business challenges, many of them have to deal with personal challenges. How do you deal with your co-founders? What sort of mental stability you need to have? How do you deal with employees? How do you deal with investors? So there's a whole lot of personal journey which is mixed up with the professional journey or the business journey. And we feel like having both, the focus of our effort should be on not just on the venture and the business part, but also on the growth, the personal growth of the entrepreneur, so that at some point in time, they are able to deal with it on their own without having to rely on somebody like us. And just a last point, exactly the way we have approached our MBA program. As you know, IIM Bangalore is now rated one of the top business schools, not only in India, but also in the rest of the world. I think the way we have dealt with in our MBA program is that we want to be an inflection point to our students. They come to us only for 2 years. But after they leave, whatever we have given them is enough for them to get into a different orbit. We have tried to apply the same concept for our startups. So when they come to us for a short period of time, we want us to be an inflection point to them, so that tomorrow they are in a different orbit. They go with a different mindset, so that we don't have to be behind them. They are capable of dealing with these challenges themselves. So with that, I want to end my short talk to all of you. I'm excited to be part of this effort. I think this last 4 or 5 years, as was mentioned, has been a tremendous learning for all of us and for the development of the ecosystem. We have played a small part, but we think there is a lot more left. We are happy to work with all of you to accomplish this excellent or I think a necessary goal for our country. Thank you.
So thank you for giving the special address and sharing your thoughts about the startups in India. Also, thank you for sharing your learnings experience and what NSRCL is offering to the startups. So now I would like to invite Mr. Naganand Doraswamy, founder and managing director, Idea Spring Capital, for sharing his perspectives on startups ecosystem and investment landscape.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and Professor Venki, great presentation about NSRCL, and you guys are doing a phenomenal work, and I'm sure the ecosystem will benefit significantly from whatever you are doing in NSRCL and INB under the guidance of IIM Bangalore, and look forward to working with you. And welcome everybody, and very glad to be here as part of the Karnataka Roadshow for the Prarambh Startup India International Summit. I would like to start off by saying that the government of India has done a phenomenal job in supporting startups over the past 5-6 years. And have started a lot of initiatives that have made significant difference to startups. One of them being fund of funds, where the government decided to allocate 10,000 crores to invest in professional investors. And I should say Idea Spring has been a great beneficiary of that. But what that has done is it has helped leverage the ecosystem significantly. So the 10,000 crores suddenly in the market potential is 50,000 crores, right? Suddenly 50,000 crores has become available for various startups to get money from. And we all know 2 C's are very important for any startup. One is capital, one is customer. And this has enabled, eased up the capital part of it significantly. And the government is making a lot more efforts, including what Mr. Ullas Kaman said about GEM, to ensure that not only you get the capital, but you also get the customers that are very essential for startups to grow. And that has enabled both the B2C and B2B startups, because as we all know, there are 2 categories of startups. One is going directly to consumers and one is selling to enterprises. But that has spurred both these areas of the startup significantly, and it has created umpteen number of unicorns. Just about 30 plus unicorns in the past 4 years. And glad to say that the split between B2C and B2B is getting closer and closer, because I think we need a balanced growth in the country with respect to startups. And in the past 2-3 years, particularly, the number of B2B startups becoming unicorns is same as B2C, and that's extremely healthy for the system. And we all know about COVID, how it has affected all of us, and the negative impacts it has had. And I'm sure, and fair number of startups have been also been affected by COVID in terms of the revenue and growth. But what it has also helped us is to come out stronger, right? All those startups now figure out what's the bare minimum that is required for them to survive, and how do we get out of it. And I'm sure when we get out of the COVID that we are seeing now, at least in our country, we will come out a lot stronger, and we'll see the economy improving a lot quicker, and significant benefit will come to the startups. And the government continues to play a significant part in that. It's not only that, the government is also looking at making sure that the growth is uniform across multiple different aspects of the ecosystem, whether it is encouraging Atal innovation through various incubators, to what Professor Venki was referring to, or encouraging investors. You have 500 plus venture capitalists now, but 4,000 plus investors available in India today. And so they're not, the incubators are happening. BIRAC is doing a phenomenal job in supporting startups, and VC funds are coming up all over the country with the help of fund of funds. And most importantly, there are a lot of entrepreneurs coming into fore with all the GICs that are there in the country. So I think we are seeing a phenomenal growth. And I think what I call is a perfect storm exists in India now for us to really become the startup capital in the world. We should slowly move up from third to second to first over a period of time. Although it's a tall order, I think with all the developments happening in the country, hopefully we'll get there. But the investors, are very, very optimistic about where we are going, and not only are we looking at investments in the early stage now, but we are also working with the government in enabling platforms like the innovative growth platform, which will help Series B startups to list on an exchange, public exchange. And these are various mechanisms by which you can also provide exits, because exits also become extremely important for startups to survive. So I think overall, holistically, we are seeing great support from the government of India. And coming to Karnataka, I think the government of Karnataka has been a pioneer, I should say, with the IT-BT department leading the way. And Ms. Champa, I'm sure we will have more data than me on it, but I've been very closely working with the IT-BT department in ensuring that Karnataka state retains its leadership position in the startup ecosystem. And we have had some phenomenal programs that we have conducted in the state, Elevate being one, where 300 plus startups have been given grants up to 50 lakhs, which I think is really, really phenomenal, and has encouraged many startups in Karnataka to kind of try out new things. And the grants that have been given have been extremely helpful. Not only that, we have created a sandbox for new startups to try out new ideas, whether it's in the insurance space, in the mobility space. So the sandbox will greatly help startups to kind of try out new ideas. And we have with NASSCOM, we were the first ones to provide a warehouse wherein we could house up to 300 plus entrepreneurs. And about some 500 startups have benefited from that, where space and other mentoring activities are allocated, and the state has its own startup cell. So I think Bangalore in specific, and Karnataka in general, continues to retain its leadership position because of the various activities that is provided by the government. And we have our own IT Vision Group and the Startup Vision Group that works very closely with the government in formulating the right policies, whether it is IT policy or whether it's a EV policy. So we continue to do that. And there's a very, and I'm a strong believer in the ecosystem working with the government, because there's no point staying outside and complaining. And it's been great that way, both in Karnataka and India, that the government is strongly committed to work with the ecosystem player. And that's the only way for all of us to move ahead. And there's a very, because of all these aspects, we see that there's a very strong outlook for the startups in India. And we all know this is where innovation happens. Although large companies do support innovation, the pace of innovation is one order of magnitude in startups. And hence it's extremely important to continue supporting startups, both from the ecosystem perspective and the government perspective. And not only that, even industry organizations need to play a significant part. And I'm part of the FICCI Startup Committee. And in FICCI itself, we are running various programs where startups have benefited significantly. And FICCI has supported over 1,000 startups, and provided funding of over 125 crores, right? And then enabled funding for 500 crores. And we are also running a new program that we have recently started, where it is FICCI for Startups, wherein we are providing access to customers through all our FICCI members that are there. We are working with Indian Angel Network to enable funding. We're running mentoring programs, and we are providing free membership for startups for up to a year. And I think this will be another phenomenal program that startups should utilize going forward to get access to mentoring, to get access to customers, and also to get access to capital. And Indian startups can avail this FICCI startup membership free of cost till 15 January 2021. And I strongly encourage everybody here in the call today, part of the roadshow for Karnataka, Prarambh, to go and register for this. I think it's very exciting that the government of India is organizing the Prarambh Startup India International Summit for 2021. And I strongly encourage that all of you here register for it, and also pass on this message to your fellow entrepreneurs. The more people who participate in this, I think it's better for the ecosystem, it is better for the entrepreneur, and it is better for the startups in India. So with that, thank you for listening, and I hope all of you go and register for Prarambh. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks for sharing the informative data with respect to the startup ecosystem and investment landscape. So now I would like to invite Ms. Neha Nagpal, who will be presenting a presentation on Prarambh Startup India International Summit.
Thank you, Nitin. Can you just put up the presentation, please?
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible now. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Neha from Startup India team DPIT, and I'll just take you through a short presentation that we have on One Startup India, just an introduction to the initiative, what benefits are there in Startup India, and also the program that this entire roadshow is for, the Startup India International Summit, and a couple of our other programs, National Startup Awards and State Startup Ranking. Can you move to the next slide, Nitin? So Startup India Initiative is, as I think Kamath sir very rightfully and very beautifully captured in his address about the impact of the Startup India Initiative. It's a flagship initiative of Government of India. For those who don't know, it's intended to build a strong startup ecosystem for nurturing innovations and startups in the country. This was inaugurated by Mr. PM Modi on 16 January 2016. It's been 5 years since it's been launched. The initiative has not only brought a sharp focus to startups, but it has also catalyzed the Indian startup ecosystem. It's accelerated Indian entrepreneurs building innovative solutions for Indian and global needs. As you can see on your screen, we have a very huge impact numbers in the entire country. As you can see now, we have startups in each and every state and UT of the country. We have startups in more than 586 districts. We have this number is changing every day, but now we have more than 42,000 startups recognized for DPIIT. And out of 36, there are 30 states and UTs which have a startup policy. So very proud to say that we've had a long-lasting impact on the overall startup ecosystem. And of course, it's the third largest ecosystem in the world. And as Nagadan sir mentioned, we aim to make it to the top first ecosystem. Can you go to the next slide, please? So just for everyone to know, because of course there are a lot of startups attending this roadshow, to be recognized in the startup ecosystem and to be recognized as a startup, what the company should do. There are a lot of ifs and buts, which are there, but there is an official definition what DPIIT has. So one, it has to be incorporated as a private limited company as defined in the Companies Act, or it has to be registered as a partnership firm or a limited liability partnership. So that's the legal aspect of how the firm should operate to be considered as a startup. Of course, because startup itself is a face of an organization, it has to be up to 10 years from the registration of date of its incorporation. The turnover for any financial years should not exceed 100 crores because, of course, startup by definition is a relatively smaller company. And a very important part of our recognition procedure is that the company should be working towards innovation, development, or improvements of products and processes. And it should be a scalable business model because that's how you can differentiate between an MSME and a startup. Because startups by itself have an element of innovation in it. Can you please go to the next slide, Nitin? So I've explained to you what a startup is. Now, how to get recognized by DPIIT as a startup. As I said before, we have more than 42,000 startups recognized by DPIIT. This number is only increasing many folds every day. And it enables you, what a major benefit that all the startups get. It enables you access of benefits which DPIIT itself offers and Startup India offers, including a lot of benefits on the portal, tax exemptions, where you can apply for tax exemptions, and hub features, patent, rebates and patent, and a lot of other things. So that we have a very fairly simple process of registration, and we invite startups to apply through the procedure that's visible on your screen right now. there is a very simple application process form, which will take you not more than 20 minutes to fill. You have to fill up supporting documents, which of course includes the basic company details, the founder, team member details, entity details, incorporation certificate, business models, etc. This form will take you maximum of 20 minutes to fill. After that, we have a very strong IMB team, recognition team, which looks at all these applications very carefully. It evaluates the proposal, and then the application is approved. And if the answers are not suitable, we also send reminders to upload answers. So it's a very clear and a very seamless process through which any startup can get recognized. So if your startup is right now not recognized, I would encourage you to go to our portal, get recognition, so that you can enjoy all these benefits that we provide. Can you go to the next slide, Nitin? So coming to what this roadshow is focused around, we have, as I said, Startup India initiative was launched 5 years back on 16 January. So to mark that 5-year anniversary, we have a very huge virtual international summit on 15th and 16th of January. It's called Prarambh. We've very carefully curated the name for it because Prarambh by itself implies an auspicious start. And as a verb, it implies to begin. So it's a very, like a significant word that we're using in our summit. The summit aims to bring Indians' entrepreneurial force into the global map. It marks the 5th anniversary, I've already told you. It's also aimed to lay a foundation for multilateral cooperation and engagement with countries from around the globe. It's a 2-day long virtual summit. It'll bring together 200 marquee speakers across 25 countries. It's a global event to facilitate discussions on innovation, emerging technologies, various startup policies, initiatives, and it'll also enable governments and international organizations to share their views and set on minds the fire of young entrepreneurs and driving them to solve the problems of the startup ecosystem. Can we go to the next slide? As I mentioned before, the summit is a select gathering of innovators, entrepreneurs, investors, regulators, industry, and academic associations from India and across the world. It also includes BIMSTEC member states. It's a global event, and it has participation from all sorts of stakeholders, private and government from across the world. And of course, apart from deliberating on good practices from best of the ecosystem in the world, from Silicon Valley to Singapore to Australia, the sessions are also designed to showcase the spread and depth of entrepreneurship in India. Of course, the focus is always on India, and we are also showcasing how the Indian and an average Indian entrepreneur can scale up their business and what are the skills they need. These are all the sessions which are supposed to get incorporated. It will also inspire and encourage youth to be job creators instead of job seekers. And of course, we also have specific sessions on attaining attention to the Indian startup ecosystem to get more global capital and more domestic capital into the startup ecosystem so that the startups have bigger set of opportunities. The Indian startups have bigger opportunities. Can we go to the next slide? I'll just talk about 2 main sessions here. Of course, you can find the entire agenda on our website, which I'll come to later. But 2 focus sessions that I want to talk about today is inaugural session. Honorable PM Shri Piyush Goyal will address the gathering of innovators. We'll also be launching a virtual startup showcase, which will have more than 500 startups showcasing their products and services on the platform. This is going to be available for 2 straight days. Additionally, it will also have remarks from dignitaries and representatives from BIMSTEC nations. So it's going to be a starting session that we're going to have, followed by 2 days of capacity building sessions, 2 days of panel discussions by the top industry leaders, government leaders, etc. The next slide, please. The final session that we're going to have is going to be the Grand Plenary. The session will comprise on basically the reportings of whatever has happened over the past 2 days. It's expected to be attended by PM Modi. So request you to please definitely log in for this session. And it's going to be a summary of the entire 2-day sessions. So that's going to be the event. I would encourage you all to go and register for the event if you haven't already. It's going to be a great addition to all the startups. If you're connected to startup ecosystem in any way, it's something which is going to help you very, very strongly. Can we go to the next slide, please? So apart from, of course, these the event that we're conducting, I'm also gonna let you know about two major programs that Startup India is doing. One is, of course, like Kamath sir mentioned, State Startup Ranking 2020. And of course, Karnataka in itself has been one of our top performers over the past 2 years. The state has performed exemplary in the ranking framework. Now we're back with the third edition of the ranking framework. And of course, it's the framework in itself is a capacity development exercise. How what we do, we for the entire duration of the framework, we go through a rigorous process of capacity development for the states and UTs. There is an exchange of best practices, there is an exchange of mutual learning, and we learn from each other. That's the aim of the ecosystem, the exercise. Followed by that, we evaluate states on the performances on how they've supported startup ecosystems. This time, the evaluation timeline is 1st October 2019 to 31st January 2021. It's longer than last time because, of course, we are also aware of the impact that COVID has had in the entire country. So it's a slightly longer timeline that we have. States and UTs have been divided according to categories. We have 7 reform areas, which are basically the building blocks of the startup ecosystem for any state government, which is institutional support, fostering innovation, access to market, incubation, funding support, capacity building, and we have mentorship support. So again, just focusing on this, this is an area that Karnataka has performed very well in. So it's one of our flagship initiatives. So just wanted to highlight this as well. After that, we also want to focus on very successful national startup awards that DPIT conducted in 2020. We had 192 finalists. We had over 36 winners, over 12 sectors, which have gotten a prize of 5 lakhs from the government. But apart from the prize money that these winners have got, we're also supporting the winners and the finalists in multiple ways. There's a lot of hand holding that DPIT is doing. We're helping them connect with the relevant government stakeholders. We're helping them get market access. We're helping them with pitching opportunities. They're also getting an opportunity for Startup India Showcase. And we're also, of course, calculating in terms of what sort of regulatory support do they need. So there's an entire mentorship support and there's an entire hand-holding that DPIT is doing with these startups. Can you go to the next slide? Just focusing on some of these startups, the startups from last year, the winners from last year have been performing brilliantly. Especially after the results have been launched, they've gotten a lot of traction. There's just two case studies that are in front of your screen right now. One of our startups, Skyroot Aerospace, has gotten recognition from Mr. PM Modi himself, and they're getting a lot of traction from social media. One of our startups has actually been acquired by by Flipkart. It's called Scapic. It's an augmenting reality startup. So that's the kind of impact that NSA has had over the past 1 year, and the startups have been performing brilliantly. So this year now we're launching a second edition of National Startup Awards, which is NSA 2021. We've of course now increased our scope. Instead of 12 sectors, we have 15 sectors, 49 subsectors, and 6 special categories. We've made the process more streamlined, and these are the categories as you can see on your screen. So I would request all the startups again to apply for these national awards because the benefits are immense, the opportunities are immense, and it'll really help the startup to scale further. I think that was yeah, and these are the award details, of course, from last year. We had special categories of women-led startup, campus-led initiative, rural areas, and we have import substitution also. We have specific special category for COVID-19 because, as one of the panelists also mentioned, the startup ecosystem has been performing very successfully in fighting COVID-19 pandemic, and there have been so many innovations. So we also want to recognize them. So, and there's also something, a special category on Indic languages, because that's also a focus that we want to focus on of startups that are working in this area. So these are the categories that we have for this year. And we look forward to getting more and more nominations from Karnataka and to get more, registrations for the event as well. Thank you so much. This is my time. And hoping all of you apply for the summit. Looking forward.
Yeah, thank you, Neha, for sharing the details of the event, plus also the offerings that are being made by Startup India team for the startups. So now I would like to invite Ms. Champa E, General Manager IT, Head of Startups Karnataka, for our inaugural address. Ma'am, you are muted.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Neha, for very good insights about the Prarambh program from DPIIT. At the outset, I would like to congratulate DPIIT for organizing the first ever Startup India International Summit scheduled on 15-16 January in a virtual format. Let me also congratulate FICCI and NSR Cell for organizing the Karnataka Roadshow for Prarambh event. It's an honor to be part of today's event. Talking about the startup ecosystem on Karnataka, as you're all aware, Bangalore has the most vibrant startup ecosystem in the country. In 2020, 8 Indian startups became unicorns in India, out of which 5 are from Bangalore. This shows that we have a very good nurturing ecosystem in our state, especially given the COVID scenario. Government policies play a very important role in nurturing startups. Karnataka was the first state to announce the startup policy way back in 2015, and we have come a long way since then. We have set up 1.25 lakh square feet area of incubation space in various parts of Karnataka for providing subsidized working space and other resources for Karnataka-based startups. This includes our centers with NASCOM, IAMAI, IESA, and a dedicated incubator for BT startups, which is Bangalore Bio Innovation Center in Electronic City, Bangalore. So this is not limited only to Bangalore. We have set up incubation centers beyond Bangalore in Hubballi, Mysore, and other tier 2 cities. To encourage entrepreneurship among students while they are still in engineering colleges, incubation centers have been established in engineering colleges of tier 2 and tier 3 towns under our New Age Innovation Network program. Till date, we have supported 30 engineering institutions under this program, and we are going to add 10 more in the next phase. Under Idea to POC program, we have funded around 470 startups to the tune of 109 crore till date. This program is popularly known as Elevate, and startups are given grant support of up to 50 lakhs, and it's the first of its kind initiative in the country. And I'm happy to state that even during COVID, we have conducted Elevate Unnati recently, which is a dedicated program to promote startups from SC/ST community. The finals was conducted in the last week of December 2020, and now we are in the process of announcing the winners. We have one more grant-in-aid funding program for social impact called Grand Challenge Karnataka. This is to find solutions to some of the state's long-standing issues. 6 challenges have been completed so far. The first one was on real-time monitoring of sewage treatment plant. Second, on early detection of plant disease and pest infestation. Third was on effective delivery of primary health services using technologies. Fourth was tackling undernutrition and malnutrition. Fifth, traffic congestion in Bangalore. And sixth was on water conservation. This year, we are also coming up with new calls focused on smart cities development and also development of backward region in North Karnataka. In April 2020, we had launched COVID Challenge, and we received over 500 applications, out of which 22 solutions were recognized by government. We are happy to state that some of the solutions could be used for administering COVID vaccine, conducting the RT-PCR testing, contactless thermal imaging, etc. We have also set up technology business incubators in selected thrust areas like IoT, robotics, machine learning, nanotechnology, in association with academic institutions in the state. And to promote hardware startups, we have set up common instrumentation facilities in tier 2 cities of the state in 5 locations across the state. Under the Global Innovation Alliances program, government has developed partnerships with 20 plus countries for skilling, R&D, and startups cooperation. A legal framework for innovation has been established under Karnataka Innovation Authority. This is to bring new and emerging technologies under a legal framework until appropriate law is enacted. This authority has been constituted under the chairmanship of Chief Minister, and we have already received an application from our Urban Land Transport Department to set up the first regulatory sandbox. These are some of the initiatives taken up by our department to promote startup ecosystem in the state. Mr. Nagananda and other industry leaders have been part of our vision groups and other steering committees. I take this opportunity to acknowledge their support and guidance in all our initiatives. This year, we are planning to set up one-stop portal for startups to connect with investor, product launch, demo days, workshops, interactive webinars on a virtual platform. This is to facilitate startups during the pandemic and getting all the ecosystem enablers on a single platform. I hope all the stakeholders from the startup ecosystem participate in the Prarambh event and make use of the opportunities. We have nominated 31 top startups from our state for the virtual startup showcase. Once again, I thank everyone and wish DPIIT a huge success for Prarambh Startup India International Summit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for the inaugural address and sharing the initiatives that are being taken to promote startups. So now we will take some question and answers, like questions from the YouTube live link. So the first question is like, is the summit sector specific? So it's basically for Miss Neha.
No, so just to answer that question, the summit is not sector specific. Of course, it's specific to startups, it's specific to innovators, but of course, the entire private industry can attend, and it's not. It doesn't, have one particular sector focus. For example, just to let you know, there are some sectors which are from idea to POC, how to go from idea to POC, go to market strategy, women empowerment. So it's a very well-rounded summit with multiple sectors. So of course, there's no sector focus. There is focus from all sectors.
Okay. So now the next question is like, how do a startup apply for Startup Awards 2021?
So that it's a fairly simple process. First of all, you have to be DPIT recognized to register for NSA. In case you're already registered on Startup India and have a DPIT recognition number, you have to ensure that all the details that you've put are correct, because certain fields will be auto-populated into your application form. And once you're clear with all of that, the step 2 is just go to the National Startup Awards tab when you go to Startup India portal. Upari, there's a tab called National Startup Awards. And then you can click on apply as a startup. Or if you're any other category, because we also have incubators and accelerators, you can just click on apply, click on the category, subcategory, check there will be some auto-populated fields, and then you can populate the rest of the fields, and that's how you apply.
So there's a question like, if a startup who had already applied and the application is rejected, so is there a possibility that they can reapply for the startup certificate from DPIIT?
Yes, we do give that option to startups. If your application is rejected, you can reapply after 15 days. However, I would suggest that it's better if you write to the Startup India, which is DIPP-startups. I will share that with you, Nitin, here.
Okay.
It's better if you mail that ID or raise a query so that you know exactly why the application was rejected, so that you can work on that aspect and then reapply.
Sure.
But yes,
And
you can, in 15 days.
Yeah, the final question is like, are there any opportunities to exhibit in the program?
We do have, as I think ma'am just mentioned, we do have a startup showcase, but it's a closed door showcase where we're inviting nominations from certain stakeholders which have already come. So we do have these opportunities, but these are not open right now.
Okay. So these are the questions that were being posted on the YouTube link. So so for the vote of thanks, I would now like to invite Mr. Shaju Mangalam, who heads the FICCI Karnataka State Council. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. It's a wonderful analysis that we have been seeing on the startup scenario. I would like to congratulate FICCI for organizing, taking this initiative to organize all over India the roadshow. On behalf of Karnataka State Council, we've partnered with NSR cell, and the support has been extended by the NSR cell was fantastic. We have a large number of startups are also registered as participants and viewers both on our platforms, and the start was a really excellent, encouraging response. On behalf of FICCI, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today for this virtual roadshow of Startup India International Summit. I would like to thank Madam Champa, General Manager IT, Head of Startup Karnataka, for giving a detailed overview of what Karnataka IT Department Startup is doing in this sector, and the brief analysis as well as the overview, a vision kind of statement that she has given what is the government is planning to do. On behalf of FICCI, we are also wanting to work with you, ma'am, and in future, and make whatever initiative that you are doing, we would like to associate with your department, and we extend all cooperation to your department, and looking forward to associate with you. I would like to thank Mr. Ullas Kamath, Chairman. He has been a pillar of strength for FICCI Karnataka State Council, especially for the startup. We have done some wonderful programs last couple of years in the startup area. Because of the COVID, it has slowed down, but we will definitely take up more initiative in the startup. And I thank Mr. Kamath for addressing today, taking time and addressing. Mr. Naganand was also part of our startup committee, and he has been giving a strategic partnership with FICCI Startup Committee. I would like to thank Mr. Naganand for giving his overview on this conference. Now, Professor Venkatesh from NSR Cell, I had talked with him, and he has been very kind, and we have worked with IIM Bangalore, NSR Cell in the previous roadshow also. They extended their cooperation, and also we worked very effectively in some of the programs in the past for us. So thank you, Professor, for coming and addressing this program. Neha, you have given a very detailed analysis of what is the program which is coming up and what benefits that startups will be getting, and how we can streamline the whole process. Though it is virtual, but it will be very effective. Thank you, Neha, for taking time and addressing us. As the largest and oldest chamber, FICCI articulates the views and concerns of the industry. In line with that, the FICCI has been working extensively in the startup ecosystem with an aim to be the voice of startups in the country and provide them a platform for policy advocacy, networking, consensus building, and much more on that particular segment. The COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected our startup, and all the ecosystem players must continue to provide the necessary support to ride through this storm and continue the economy's progress through this innovation and progressive ideas. FICCI is proud to partner with the DPIIT and Start India for virtual Prarambh Startup India International Summit 2021. We look forward and encourage maximum participation from Indian startups looking to scale within the country as well as the globally during the summit. I would like to thank once again everyone for joining us for this roadshow and making it a successful one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So Shaju, if I can add two things. One is I want to make an open invitation to startups to join IIM Bangalore and all of our programs. So just an invitation. So people who are listening in, if you even without being a winner of the award, as long as we believe you have an interesting story, an interesting problem to solve, we'd be happy to support you. The second one is for Ms. Champa. Being one of the major institutions in Bangalore, I somehow feel like, we are working in islands. So I think we should work together, both the governments and institutions like us, so that we can amplify the effect on the ground. So
Sure,
any
sir.
kind of, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Exactly 1
Thank you.
o'clock. We are closing it. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Super. Singana sir, 3 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ